At 3 o'clock, taps was played across America, including at the Fleet and Farm on Sunnybrook. A live bugler played taps at all of those stores across the country. And then directly afterwards, there was a store-wide silence during the national moment of remembrance.
You know, we're all busy with celebrating the holiday today, and this is just a small token of how we can honor and reflect and remember those who have gone before us.
It wasn't just Fleet Farm stores taking part in this event. A Taps Across America event also took place in Spencer this afternoon at the local country club. A special ceremony this morning in Anthon, Iowa, to remember 10 men who died when their B-17G bomber crashed in January 1944. Members of Anthon's American Legion McNiff Post 389 conducted a 21-gun salute to honor those men who died tragically in that crash. Typically, it's 7 rifles shooting 3 rounds, but today, Dan Brandt says he wanted as many members involved as they could supplied with a rifle.
It's a tradition that's been started well before my time, and it's one that we think is important to continue the tradition, and more importantly, honor our fallen soldiers, comrades, veterans.
This ceremony, one of several conducted around town this morning by members of the Legion to remember those who lost their lives in service to our country.
We really want to make sure that the ones that never come home are never forgotten.
Absolutely.
The Legion also spent the morning honoring those who have fallen at 3 cemeteries, the River Bridge and Anthon Auto Community School. The Woodbury Township Cemetery dedicated a new Veterans Memorial as a part of today's ceremonies. Dozens of people attended the event, which honored men and women who died in service of our country. The Sergeant Bluff American Legion Post 662 was on hand to conduct the ceremony, as well as to witness the dedication of the Veterans Monument. Holly Bowman says this was an event that a lot of people were looking forward to.
A lot of the board members and trustees have long thought about having this monument here. We have a lot of veterans that do rest in our cemetery, with our cemetery being over 100 years old. It's just a long past due event for us.
Bowman says the Woodbury Township Cemetery is the oldest cemetery in the county and is the final resting place for service members from as far back as the Civil War. The service honored our military personnel who have died, and last week flags were placed on military grave sites at Memorial Park Cemetery. More than 90 volunteers placed more than 4,000 flags. The ceremony also serves as an opportunity to educate young people about the importance of this day.
It's always inspiring looking out at the crowd, but what really inspired me was the number of children here and grandchildren. That's a result of the parents and the grandparents. They're teaching, they're educating.
The American Legion is also looking for volunteers to help take down those flags at Memorial Park at 9 o'clock tomorrow. American Legion 241 in Lamar set out to make this Memorial Day a special one with the 60th annual Avenue of Flags program. Dozens of community members packed into the Lamar's Middle School auditorium today, all of them there to honor the fallen soldiers. The program kicked off with posting of colors and then the Star Spangled Banner performed by the municipal band. The event continued with several speakers, wreath presentations, and even poem readings. No veteran was left forgotten as more than 1,500 names were read off the flag roster.
I think any of us that have served have lost someone along the way. And if we don't remember them, you know, who's going to? A lot of times it's just the family, but, you know, it's important for us to remember our brothers and sisters, and then we know that somebody's going to do the same for us someday.
The American Legion didn't stop there either. Hundreds of flags could be seen flying outside the courthouse to honor those who served our country. Speaking of that scene, it was the perfect place to capture this great image taken by Julie Holsing in Lamar's. There's a view of the courthouse veteran flag display with a petite patriotic fellow on looking there, and that is definitely one you need to frame.